What's up, everybody? It's the Digital World Podcast, and this video is gonna. I'm sure you guys have heard of this, and I think I need to cover it because it's really, really important. Because I'm gonna show you some of the things that are currently taking place, and this should tell you that you should be preparing. Okay, I think this year is a pivotal year to prepare. And that's why I considered it a big year for myself and my family. Now, let's get right into it. The global economy is heading for mother of all supply chain shocks as China locks down ports. So I'm not gonna really get into the China lockdown of ports, but that's gonna be huge given that they're a big exporter of a lot of things, and we have a lot of our manufacturing business over there because it's cheaper, and we come here or we ship it back to the states to make profits, right? So right now, the Fed is talking about uh, having rate hikes, and depending on how this goes, I don't know what they're planning on doing, but it could really, really affect the economy. But I mean, everything they do is the wrong option. So I would not be surprised. Here's the thing, I'm not going to pretend like I know everything with rate hikes and stuff like that because I don't. But what I do know is that the policy that they're using is it's going to put a lot of people in hurt, right? And they've literally inflated this balloon that at one point or another, if you listen to Mike Maloney, you listen to Robert Kiyosaki, George Gammon, right? Mark Moss, all these people, they're letting you know what's coming down the pipeline. So, like, I try not um, to really get stuck in the weeds of all this, right? I try to take it as it is and prepare ahead of time because we know the big tsunami of economic failure that's coming. And and this is just the beginning, right? I've been saying this throughout this whole channel that we're in the beginning of something massive. Now here is the White House, and I don't know if you guys have been seeing what's happening, but they're building a prefab concrete wall behind the fence that they already have. And if you see, it's under construction. Now, why isn't this being covered? Why is this happening? Did taxpayers fund this? Did we want this? Right? Because this is not owned by those politicians. They're there as a rental, right? We vote people in and we can vote people out. Unfortunately, there's a lot of corruption that's taking place. And a lot of things are happening without the consent of the American people. Now, what is happening? Now, you got to assume that if you're building a concrete wall around there, there's a very specific reason as to what they foresee coming in the future. And this is very, very concerning. And it almost feels like they're trying to build a barrier between the people and the elected representatives that are there to serve the people, not be served by the people. And there's this very misconstrued idea that they're there as overlords when they're really not. So this is something that I felt was very concerning. But let me show you some more data, right? This is, oh, come on now. Okay. So we've seen a lot of stuff with the IRS. And I mean, with the 1099Ks that they're now sending out, if you spend more than $600, it's ridiculous. And now if you're into the crypto space, this is an individual who's made it big in the crypto space, and he said, I just learned that the IRS doesn't let you write off stolen crypto. I believe I am reacting with the appropriate amount of range. And so if your crypto gets stolen, you're still liable for whatever profits, or well, I mean, it's not going to be profits for you because you've lost it, but you're still responsible to pay. That is what he's saying. So here David Schwartz responds, my understanding is that theft of an asset acquired as an investment is still deductible as an investment loss under 165F. So this is something to monitor, because if you don't know the details for um, your finances when it comes to your investments, it could get pretty ugly with the IRS. Now, another thing I wanted to show you was, well, there was a massive cyber attack in Ukraine on government websites. So, folks, the narrative is building for climate change, for a major cyber attack worldwide. You see all these nations getting together to practice quote unquote war games for if the economic global financial system were to suffer a massive cyber attack. You see that it's coming. It's being prepped, and I think CBDCs will arise from all that chaos. Now, another here is Elizabeth Warren, who said no one should have a guess to whether a top government official is acting in the public interest or advancing their private interests. My anti-corruption plan would ban members of Congress, federal judges, and key executive branch officials from owning or trading individual stocks. As we see a massive bubble on the NASDAQ, right? Almost reaching its 4.236 extension, which usually indicates the top of a market. So it's interesting that this narrative is now building to get Congress members to not own stock. But what this would do is would allow them to liquidate all their holdings near the top. And that would people, I mean, it sounds very ethical, but the why they're doing it is not ethical, because they want to sell all their positions. They want to sell their positions so they can take profit, and it's just a very corrupt game. So I would keep an eye on this, and if they start selling in this range here, I would run for the hills, like Blockchain Backer says, and because the top is very closely in. And he also posts this. He says something about this flag on gold has always left an uncomfortable feeling about why the narrative was drop gold and buy Bitcoin. And the future, he says, the future will dictate the reality of the narrative, but something smelled funny about convincing people to sell their gold. And so if you know anything about TA, there's a cup and handle that forms, right? And this is the cup and the handle that's forming. And usually that's an indication that this is about to go up. So people have literally been incentivized to sell all their physical precious metals for a digital cryptocurrency. And I've seen that a lot recently. And what they're trying to do is get everyone on this digital system, right? While they own all the physical goods. And while, yes, you may be profitable with in the short term with this digital system, but in the future, when they regulate all your spending and everything you do, it won't matter, because now you'll be controlled. And this is why it's important, folks, to prepare ahead of time. Yes, you can have these investments, but if you can't access them because the gatekeepers don't let you, because you don't comply, then it doesn't matter how much money or electronic digits you have on that bank account. And so here's the Dow Jones measured in silver, okay? And so when you measure it against silver, you see that it was rejected at the 702, meaning that's a pretty crucial Fibonacci level in which things usually in bear markets, if it hits that after its full extension, it's an indication of bear markets, right? And now it hit the 702. When was that? In about 2019. And now it's in a retrace. So we can expect some more downside in terms of this chart. So that's all to say that we see the narratives and the forces at play. We see supply chains are in for another massive disruption. And I just hard times are coming and they're here now. And so it's one of those things where you have to prepare ahead of time knowing what you see. And I know that it was a big victory yesterday with the Supreme Court, but now you see why I say it's a victory now, but there's still a lot of things at play, and you see what's coming down the pipeline. And I hope that what I've shown you today helps you get a good idea, a good grasp of why it's important to use this time that's been granted to us of still having our freedoms to prepare, because it's inevitable what's coming. And I want you guys to be fully prepared. Without further ado, this is the Digital World Podcast, and I'll see you in the next episode.